Is using tabs to figure out songs hurting your musicianship and your music? Yeah, probably. Let's find out why and see what we can do about it. Okay, before we dive in too deep, just a couple quick asides. One is this is going to be the start of a series that basically is going to go under the heading of things I wish people had told me earlier in music. Things that I took a long time to learn, or myths that I believed were true, and I'm going to dispel a lot of it. We're going to get into some really interesting topics that I don't feel get addressed and made a huge difference in my music and my development as an artist, and even just down to simple technique. So definitely, subscribe to the channel, check it out. This video is part of a much larger thing that I think will help you out a lot if this video interests you and you're out there exploring and trying to find out ways to figure out songs, develop yourself, get your own style going. This is going to make a difference. Now, I know it's a controversial topic and people get really defensive about it and everything, but we want to dive into exactly what's going on, why it's hurting, what it's doing over the long term, and why it's even causing music to become more and more repetitive, and it's hurting individual musicianship. So let's take a look. Reason number one that tabs are a problem. We're making an auditory form of art almost completely visual. It's locking our ears out of the process, and we're not developing the most crucial parts of being a musician. When people go to experience music or try and learn it anymore, almost inevitably, the first thing they do, search YouTube, see if they can find anything showing the person playing it. Then they try and match up their hands. Then they go and look for the tabs. Then they, even better, look for an instructional video from that person. The problem here is you're never really listening. You're matching a physical activity up to another person's physical activity, and you're never taking the time to let your brain develop the ability to match pitch, the ability to hear differences in tonality, relationship from one pitch to another. All of that goes out the window. That's when you start getting real problems with people who can be physically gymnastic, and you see this all over YouTube too. These guys who could just shred their ass off, but they all do it the exact same way. They all sound the exact same, and there's a reason for it. It's because they're all learning from the same guys and the same people, and they're just replaying it. They're just taking it in, spitting it right back out, and nothing's ever actually getting created or understood at a deeper level. Two is, not everybody putting out tabs does it well. And then they wreck tons of people who don't stop and listen. Because you haven't developed your ear by using tabs and have never really sat down and been able to discern between pitches and know when something's wrong. Every time I see one of these new tabs go up for a popular song or something, I'll go and look at the other people doing covers of it. And same thing every time. Everybody plays it in the same hand position, whether that's the best one or not. And when I hear a bad note in it, everybody plays the same bad note. So what winds up happening is you start convincing yourself that what you're doing physically is the part that's more important than what your ear should understand. And you never question. You never sit there and start to realize that one pitch is bad. You're not only not developing your ear, you're actually going in reverse. You're ignoring what you should be just to be able to get through this song, and that's real damage. When you're constantly reinforcing that you should be believing what your hands are doing versus what your ear probably knows is wrong, then that's just a train wreck. That's preferring visually going over information that's false versus good information that's coming in via your hearing, which is what you're really supposed to be paying attention to. Problem number three, you're not developing your ear. Kind of an obvious thing, but this has a lot more consequences than you may realize up front. One, it's not just being able to hear things, identify them, and know what's going on and be able to do it, which actually gets faster and faster the more that you transcribe and learn songs by ear. But you lose the ability to be able to be in a group of musicians or inside of a band and hear what's going on with other players and be able to react to it and do it correctly and know what's going to sound right instead of having to look at their hands, having to duplicate what they do. You can hear and compose a part that's going to be complementary because you can hear the harmonies and the individual pitches that are going to match up and complement what the other player's doing, not just stare at their hand and be able to mimic what they're doing. You're never your own artist. You never develop your own voice. You're just constantly imitating what anybody else in front of you is dictating. That's not musicianship. You're just a karaoke machine with a live instrument. Number 4, you lose all connection to your instrument. And this to me is one of the worst parts. A huge part of being a really good musician who can compose music well, who can play improvisationally, or just come up with ideas and be able to get them out on their instrument as fast as possible, is having that connection that you can hear things in your head and in your imagination and get them onto the instrument quickly and accurately. If you're always learning music by tabs and you're not developing your ear and the ability to hear something, identify it, and then replicate it on your instrument, then you're losing out on what it really means to be a musician. When you have a great idea in your head, the ultimate part of being a musician is being able to say, this is my voice. It's trying to come out. It's trying to manifest itself here through my instrument, which is supposed to be the end objective of music, and I'm throwing that out the window. I'm just going to only come up with things that are based on my muscle memory or cop little parts of other songs, that type of thing. You can't develop your own style if you can't even play the things that you hear in your own head or that you imagine as a complementary part. If you can't do that, you're not a musician. So that's a huge, huge loss that I see people having constantly when they go to play. I just keep seeing little pieces of stuff they've stolen from all over the place, and I never hear from them. And a lot of my students, one of the most common problems, and one of the things I hear the most is, I don't feel like I have my own style. I don't know how to develop my own style. I don't understand why my stuff keeps sounding the same. This is why. It's because of your ear. Your voice can't speak if you can't hear it clearly well enough. Problem number 5. It makes everything less original and more repetitive. I'm sure we've all noticed how repetitive and how unoriginal most music has become, that we hear the same types of things over and over. Everybody seems a rip-off of everybody else. Doing things via tab only reinforces this because it becomes the quick fix. Tabs are the heroin or candy bar of the music world. Instant gratification, instant high, but it costs you over the long run. Absorbing music and having it become a part of you takes time. There's no way around it, but you should want that to happen. You should enjoy that process. When you have a tab and you very quickly learn a song, you barely know it, half the time I see people suddenly, right after that, going to write their original song. Funny, it sounds a lot like the song they just learned from tab. Barely different, actually. It's because the time wasn't spent to absorb the song, to truly learn it at a deeper level, and also to have it merge with all the other songs that you've learned and spent time on and have it come into being this amazing stew of things that make up your style. It's just Metallica song in, barely change Metallica song back out. Pantera song in, barely change Pantera song right back out. That's why anymore a band plays and you can tell in the first 4 seconds who they're influenced by because it's just some other song changed by a couple of notes. You have to give it time to digest and turn into, again, the big stew of all the components that make up the music that you love, and then that piece of original mixture is what's going to make up your style and your sound. Not just I learned this song and now a few minutes later I'm spitting out something that I call original, but it's just me making the most minor changes to hide the fact that the only thing I know is this hand position I learned from tablature. Spending time really learning songs by ear also will give you an incredible sense of accomplishment After learning a tab, it was, again, it's a candy bar. You don't feel that great after it. Now you're just on to the next project. It has no thing holding you into it and going, I did this. This was tough. And I sat and really figured this out and devoted to it. And now I can impress people with my ability to decipher this whole song. It's not, well, I just learned this thing by playing along with it, by what I was told by somebody who probably played it wrong to begin with. And here it is. You want that sense of accomplishment. And you want it to drive you, and that each time you figure out a song, it gets easier and easier, and you see yourself developing. With tab, you don't develop. Whatever level you're at when you first learn that first song from tab is the same level you're at with the 50th song you learned from tab. The first song you learn by sitting down and learning it by ear is utterly different than the 50th one, because you will have achieved a skill. And it's not just the skill of being able to figure out the song, it's all the other connections to your music, musicianship, your own style, all the things we just addressed. So there is a humongous payoff to it that you will never, ever get with tabs. And it's what's going to turn you into an actual musician, and a far better one, and the one I know you probably hope to be one day. So now that we've torn this down, instead of just kind of leaving it in that position, the next set of videos I'm doing are all in this series, and we're going to walk through the alternatives to the approach of just learning things by tab and how to actually develop yourself as a musician. How to be able to play other people's music, be influenced with it, but not rip it off. How to find why you really like the music that you do and take those components and turn it into what you do. We'll also look at how to create interesting compositions that are utterly different than other people in your musical category, how to broaden your range, and how to be able to do it reliably. And then finally, we'll even cover some topics that supposedly are unteachable, like how to have creativity reliably when you want it all the time. It is teachable. It is understandable. It's not some mystery thing you have to sit around waiting for. I have to do it a lot, like in gear reviews and things, to come up with an idea for a performance the day before I'm going to film something. I pull it off. It's not always going to be, your Mozart symphony idea, but being able to come up with a good idea on the spot and have it sound like something you want to hear and have it happen every time reliably. Sound good? Well, that's going to be in the next set of videos. So like, subscribe, share, all that type of thing, and keep the conversation going down below. If you have any pushback, drop it in. Let's talk about it. If you have any other thoughts about it or things that you think might be a good addition to the discussion on tablature, please definitely comment and share this with your friends. Get a lot of people in. I'm going to be putting out information again that utterly changed me as an artist. And I don't see it getting addressed in a lot of places. I'm really happy that there's this medium where I can finally get it out. Big shout out and thank you to the virtuoso guitarist, Scott Henderson. I had a 1-hour session with him one time where I learned a lot of the things I'm going to cover in these videos, and it utterly transformed me as an artist. There's hours and hours of other crappy lessons I would have easily turned in and given him the money for. And it was amazing how much he turned me around in my thinking, in how to write music. When I walked out of that room, I was 10 times the artist. And I'm going to cover a lot of that here. So I'm passing on information that didn't originate with me. So I'm trying to gift it back out as a pay it forward. So again, huge thanks to Scott, and for all the other secrets about music we're going to unlock, subscribe, share, hit that bell, and I'll see you on the next one.